Welcome to the Shenmue AM2 podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shenmue AM2 podcast. We're your hosts, Andrew
And Matt.
And this episode we have a special guest with us. You might not necessarily recognize his name, but you'll definitely recognize his face if you watched any of the Dream Conference.
He's reenacting it for us.
We have Scott Pell on the episode with us today.
Hello!
Hi.
Hello. Thanks for doing this, Scott. We appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of in general, and then we can get into the Shenmue stuff in a bit.
Alright, awesome. Hi, my name is Scott Pell. I am a nobody from Michigan who made his way to E3 and ended up on camera. That's basically what happened. No, I mean, like, absolutely love video games, and getting to the E3 was a dream come true for me. I've been wanting to go to E3 since, like, I found out that it was actually a thing. So, like, 10 years in the making, and this dream finally came true. And so that was just amazing. And, like, when you're at E3, you are on board the hype train, dude. Like everything is just so amazing. So, like, yeah.
Now, how did you, like, get to E3? Because at that point in time, it wasn't open to the public, correct?
Right. It wasn't open to the public. So, like, I don't know, like, what was going on, like, this past year when it was open to the public, because I know that you still had to, like, buy a pass, which is what I did.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I did, and it cost me a lot of money, but that's okay, because, like, the year before, I was working at a factory, and, you know, just kind of, like, working and saving up money, and, like, I knew that E3 was coming up, and so I looked into, like, getting in there any way that I possibly could, because of, like, you know what, I deserve it after working a year at a crappy factory job, so, like, let's do something awesome. Mm. And so I looked into, like, how to get in. So, like, gosh, what happened? I think I had my podcast going on at the time, and, you know, I thought, like, hey, maybe I could, you know, use that as an excuse, or, like, my personal blog, you know, where I write about video games, and, like, none of that was good enough, but, like, I saw that, you know, you could just, like, purchase a pass, and it was, like, $800, which is crazy, and then, like, I also had to pay for the flight to Los Angeles, and, yeah, so it cost me a lot of money, but I gotta say, it was totally worth it. It was absolutely worth it, because, like, I had the best time. I got to meet so many cool people. I got to meet Ted Price from Insomniac Games, and Todd Howard from Bethesda, and I got to meet, like, some YouTubers that I really like and admire. Like, that was cool.
Cool. Nice.
So, yeah, I just bought a pass. I wasn't industry, but, like, you know, like, I made the most of my time there. I don't think I was supposed to be at the Sony press conference, because it was a press conference and I wasn't press. So I just I just walked in there, man. Like, they didn't check nothing. They like, I had my backpack, and they checked my backpack, and they're like, you can't bring food or drink in here. So, like, I had to toss out, like, I had, like, I was going on an adventure. So, like, I stocked up on, like, you know, food, snacks, and sanitizer, and Red Bull, and they saw my Red Bull, and they're like, we can't allow that in here. So I took out my Red Bull, my 4-pack of Red Bull that I was going to use to, like, keep myself going throughout the expo, and I threw it in the trash. I'm like, damn it! No! I spent money on that. Like, it's like, I play video games. It's like, alright, I'm going on an adventure, I need health potions, I need mana potions, I need all this stuff. So, like, I basically went to, like, the Rite Aid across, like, the drugstore across the street, you know, from where I was staying, and so I just stocked up on all this stuff, and so, like, I had to sacrifice that in order to get past. And then I got in, and I got some food, and I think I sat at a table across from Rupert Grint, the kid who played on Weasley. He looked like him. He looked like him. He really did. And then, like, he just got up and left, like, bam! I could have talked to Rupert Grint. Then I went and sat down next to some guys from Norway who had a podcast. They were really cool.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, my E3 experience is full of crazy stories of just meeting people like, wait, was that guy? Whoa!
Well, you picked a good one to go to.
Yeah, E3 2015 was like an amazing E3.
Yeah, it was probably the best one in my memory of all E3s.
I would
Yeah,
say so.
totally.
I would definitely
Totally.
say so.
There was so much there.
So part of, even with the Shenmue delay and everything, is we want to keep this podcast going. So
Yeah.
there's episodes where Matt and I talk about stuff. There's episodes where we have guests. So
We still haven't really explained why we have.
that's
Yeah,
what we're
why
getting to.
am I here?
So I obviously you are in a video of that conference, and I was like, well, this guy passionate about it, so I did some research, found your name, found you on the Facebook, and I sent a message to you, and I said, hey, this is, I'm not sure if you've heard of us, this is what we do, would you like to be a guest on our podcast?
To be perfectly clear, Scott is the guy who stood up in the middle of the conference and held his head because his brains were going to explode during the announcement of Shenmue 3. Okay, continue.
So, yes, that's the best way to possibly describe it. So, you don't mind if I read the response that you sent to me, do you?
Oh no, that's fine.
Okay. So Scott replied, and once my wife and I were out on our back deck. I was having a beer. We just got done supper, and I started reading this text message, and my wife's looking at me. She's like, something's going on. And I said, I just got a text message, and it was totally not what I was expecting. So Scott replied with, hello, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate the thought, though I'll have to respectfully decline. And then it goes on to, after E3, I revisited Shenmue and realized that I don't actually like the series. It was a case of nostalgia overload combined with the energy of E3 that triggered my reaction. I was very happy for Yu Suzuki, and I still am, that he's able to continue his vision. However, I just don't think that the games hold up anymore. If you do want my perspective, then I'll be there.
What a twist this was.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know.
Scott's middle name is M. Night Shyamalan.
It's true. I have 6 names.
So we go back and forth a bit, and we decide that, I said, hey, this I think is going to be a very interesting take, because every podcast that we've done so far, and all the guests that we've had on, are very, into Shenmue.
Yeah.
And I would definitely, not that I consider us sort of journalists or anything, but having, we have a forum that people, can be a part of, and I thought this would just be a really great episode just to see from, a different perspective from not the same side of the fence that we're necessarily on.
Yeah.
So explain yourself.
Where were you? Where were you on the day of today? So, yeah, E3 was absolutely amazing, and I was just so excited about everything. And so, I didn't really realize that I was on camera, go figure. People actually asked me when I got back, my friends were asking me, did you plan on being on camera? I'm like, what? What kind of question is that? I have no idea, they had cameras on the audience. But, yeah, so then I ended up becoming the Shenmue guy. And I turned into a GIF and, Eurogamer. If you watch if you look at the trailer on YouTube, actual tears were shed at the announcement of Shenmue 3. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I wasn't really crying, but, I was excited. So, that just became a thing. And so, I would see myself in videos for E3 2015 coverage. And so, so many things were announced. It would show me, just freaking out, oh my god. And, yeah, that was great. And then, 2-3 weeks later, I just get, this flood of, friend requests on Facebook because they found me. I don't know how, but they found me. All these Shenmue fans were just like, you're the Shenmue guy! And I was like, I guess. And so, I I had a following, I had a fan base, and so like I recently purchased a capture card for my computer so that I could play console games via Twitch streaming. And so like, hey, Shenmue guys play Shenmue. That's pretty catchy. So I did that, and like I revisited the games. I played them. I had never played Shenmue 2, so I thought that would be a great opportunity to do so. So I played through Shenmue 1, and I started playing Shenmue 2, and I just kind of like gave up because I realized that I really wasn't enjoying myself.
Just on Shenmue 2, or on both of them?
On both of them. In retrospect, like, okay, so Shenmue 2, or Shenmue was a masterpiece for its time. And I think that's very important to note that, like, for its time, because there's something very interesting about video games because they are art, but they are also technology. And as technology progresses, you know, so too do video games. And, like, technology is, like, concrete. Like, that's always, like, on a steady path forward. And art is sort of transcendental, like it transcends that. It doesn't really have like a path. It's subjective. You know, there's like no clear thing that is good or bad in some cases. It's like I think that everyone can definitively say that Tommy Wiseau's The Room is a bad movie. Everybody can say that.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Fun to watch.
Like Terminator 2.
Shut up.
Oh, no. How
Exactly.
dare you?
I know.
How dare you, sir?
He's some sort of Philistine who's just like recently watched it for the first time.
No nostalgia. No nostalgia. It's a running joke from a previous episode.
Okay, alright, fine, I get that. I mean, like, some people, like, that's the thing, is, like, some people like different things, and some people don't like the things that you like. So, like, that's kind of where we're at here today with Shenmue. So, with Shenmue, I didn't really like the story, I didn't really like the characters, I had an awful time with the gameplay, and goddamn those QTEs.
Yeah.
So, like, it seemed like everything about the game to me was just really, really frustrating, and, like, it didn't really sort of congeal in a way that created a worthwhile experience in my mind. I will say, though, that one thing that Shenmue does, and does extremely well, is it recreates a world, a living, breathing world. I love just, like, walking around Dobuita and, you know, Hong Kong, and just, like, seeing all these people just, like, going about their lives, running errands, going to their jobs, doing things like that. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. And, like, you know, games, you know, they do that now. Like, if you play an open world game or, you know, something like that, like, you see these people just living their lives. And that feels great, because, like, it was very immersive. Like, it just feels like, it feels mundane, but in a very exciting way.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's one of the things I like the most about Shenmue, especially the first one. It's the closest I've ever felt to living in Japan.
Right, and that was the experience of it. And, you know, that's kind of what I remember from playing Shenmue in my youth. Because, like, when I was a kid, I was way into anime, and, like, I was still into video games, and, like, Japan's where video games and anime come from. That's awesome! And so, like, you know, the opportunity to sort of, like, spend time there was great. And, yeah.
Now, we'll hop in the time machine. Another running gag. Going back to when you played Shenmue 1 when you were younger, what initially, like, was the driving factor for you to play that game?
I have no idea. My brother played it a lot, and my brother would play more video games than I did, it seems, or, like, he would at least just, like, you know, take over and just kind of, like, shove me off. So, like, I would just watch him play Shenmue, and, like, it's a very boring game to watch, but, like, I just had to figure out, like, what it was about this game that just, like, hooked my brother. Because my brother, he would play this game, like, all the time. He was hooked on it, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, there's nothing happening in this game. This is boring. And so, like, when he finished it, I had the opportunity to play it for myself. So I took a crack at it, and I was hooked. And it was definitely that immersion of, you know, this sort of living, breathing town. I got to know the people. I got to take care of the kitten, and I got to beat up some sailors, and that was cool.
It was very different from anything around back at that time.
Yeah, because nothing was like Shenmue. You really couldn't define it as a genre. It was like an action role-playing game, detective game, murder avenger simulator.
Yeah.
It was undefinable.
It actually tried to create its own genre called Free.
Fully reactive-ized entertainment.
That didn't take off.
Now I think that we would call that an open world game.
Yeah.
Or an adventure game, because it still follows a lot of those tropes from older adventure games on the PC, with adventure games the point and click adventure games. There were some things that were just somewhat obscure in their solutions, but there were still multiple paths to get to where you wanted to go. And so I really appreciate that about Shenmue. I think that has some strong points. But something that I found really frustrating about that is that Ryu was the worst detective ever. You would have your notebook where you would take notes, and I remember one time I got stuck where I was looking for Charlie. And so hey, Charlie rides bikes. I know a guy who rides bikes. And so I asked him about Charlie, and then he just says that Charlie's a poser and doesn't really tell me anything else besides that. And so I ask him again, and he just says the same line over and over again. And so that was frustrating to me, because there were so many times when I wanted to ask questions that Ryu just was not asking. It was so frustrating to me that I couldn't press people on certain questions. So games like The Witcher or The Witcher 3 specifically, because that's the one I played, and L.A. Noire, these are detective games more or less. It's you ask people and you discover things, and you can press them on certain things, and you get information. And at times, Shenmue just felt directionless, and I was just kind of wandering around until I literally stumbled across what I needed to do. And so that structure to me was just sort of bad. I thought it was bad design, because there was another point in the game later on where you're at the docks and you're trying to ask around about the Mad Angels, and there's no one specifically that you can talk to, and it was strange to me, because I was just talking to random people who didn't have any kind of information. They didn't have names. They didn't have sort of any significance. There were no key NPCs or anything like that.
Yeah.
You just talk to random people until you rile up your boss, and he lets you go from your forklift driving job, and then you get in a fight with the Mad Angels.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's you don't know who to go to for the next bit of information half the time, and it's just random. Yeah. It seems random. I mean, there's pre-planned out who's going to give you info, but you have no way of knowing. I guess it's just kind of like fishing. It's you're just out there, you just throw your lure, but while you're waiting for a bite, you're just enjoying the scenery.
But the scenery is ugly and kind of boring, and nothing really is happening. And
it wasn't ugly back in the day, but now
back in the day, no.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and what keeps me going is the nostalgia for sure. Yeah.
It definitely is nostalgia, and again, it's a masterpiece for its time. But I think we can now that it's 2017, we can look back at some of the flaws that this game had, and I think that we should be able to do that without being criticized or judged, because it's an old enough game, and people will always submit this argument that this game was my childhood, and I realize that I'm crucifying myself right now doing this, because I've actually wanted to write something or say something about all the complaints that I have about Shenmue, and I really haven't had a direction right now. So let's start off with the story of Shenmue. Now, the story of Shenmue was revolutionary for its time. No game really had that sort of fleshed out story, that that cinematic quality to it that really made it something that was very engaging. Because even with something like Ocarina of Time or some of the games that I played, it didn't have that sort of quality that Shenmue had. I really did appreciate the sweeping camera angles, the slow motion, and martial arts. The thing about this game and its story is that I've seen this before in kung fu movies.
it's a fairly typical revenge story.
It is a very typical revenge story, and like I understand that in Shenmue 2, his attitude changes from like seeking revenge to sort of finding inner peace. But again, I've seen this before in Jet Li's Fearless.
It's also cliche, yeah.
And
Andrew and I are kind of different on that. Like I don't really care about the story that much. It does feel like it's been done many times before. For me, it's all about the environment and just the feeling and the mood that it gives me. And for Andrew, he really loves the story.
I like the story. When I say I love it, part of loving it is that we didn't get an ending to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would appreciate the story as much if the whole story had played out. I would have been more like Matt, where the mechanics and the world of this game really wowed me, and they absolutely do. It's just there's no ending. Like it's this cliffhanger that I've been dealing with for 17 years.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever beat Shenmue 2, Scott, and get to the weird mystical ending?
No, I didn't. I got like 8 or 10 hours into it, and I just stopped playing because like I was bored. Nothing was really happening. Like I was making progress and making steps towards finding Londi or whatever. But the problem with this is that like there was no character arcs. There was no change in the character of Ryu. He was still just this stubborn, thick-headed, angry guy. And like, I mean, let's take a look at Star Wars. At the start of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is a nobody farm boy, and at the end of the first Star Wars, he's a hero of the rebellion. And then, like, at the start of Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, he's further into the rebellion, he's relocated to Hoth, and he has the confidence to use a grappling hook to jettison his way up to a AT-AT walker, slice it open, throw a grenade, and blow it up. The entire thing by itself. He had, like, that's changed. He's now a badass. And at the end of that, he's really started on his path towards becoming a Jedi. And in Shenmue 2, Ryu just seems to get more angry.
Yeah, I think he does, and I definitely agree with that assessment you gave. I think the idea was that change would take place over the 16 chapters of the game, but that might just be too long for some people.
Yeah, it definitely is too long, because like if you're telling a story about somebody, you should tell it about like the moments of those changes. There is value in like showing the slice of life sort of thing that Shenmue does, because I do love that. I do love walking around Dobuita. I do love walking around Hong Kong and just sort of like experiencing the culture of these places. And that's great. However, the contrast is so few and far between. Like, if we had life established before the murder of your father, like, training every day with your dad and Fukusan, those could be like really powerful moments of like, man, life is good, and then, oh no, that's been taken away from me.
Oh man, I've never actually thought about that. That'd be awesome if the game opened like a few days before your father died, and you just like live Ryo's normal life for a few days, and then you get your father taken. That'd be awesome.
I think that might be the intent of the 3 flashback scenes with the carrots and the dojo.
Yeah.
You know what? I never discovered those, and that's the interesting thing about video games, is that like everyone has a different experience in playing them, and that's cool. Like, I like that. The thing is, when like those are key moments in the story, and those can go like you can go through the game missing those, you lose some of the validity of that story.
I agree. There's the 3 of them in the first game, and then very close to the end of the second game, they replay the one about the carrots.
Yeah.
But I don't like in the first game that these things are optional.
Yeah.
Like, they give more, I don't know, context to the relationship he had with his father.
Yeah.
And you're avenging, he's avenging his father's death.
Yeah.
But you missed all 3 of those. To be honest, I think I missed all 3 of them on my first time playing this.
I probably did too.
I've played through the game several times and I still haven't found them.
I looked at I was trying to unlock all of the videos in the passport disc,
Uh-huh.
and I looked and I'm like, a memory of carrots. It's like, what? So I looked up on the internet. It's like, look at the
bowl of carrots
on the table, and then look at the thing in the dojo. Look at the cherry tree. But those are things that I really wish they had have not made optional. But on the other hand, on the other side of the fence with that, it's something to discover. So your second playthrough, you might have found that and be like, oh, it adds, replay value and longevity to the game for you.
Yeah.
But it detracts from the story a bit. So I hope they find a better balance with that in the third game, and I don't know how they would introduce that in the third game, because they don't probably have to show any more memories of his father.
Yeah.
But whatever scenario would be similar.
Just have him talk about his memories of his father to Shenhua. Just Ryo doesn't have very many heart-to-heart talks with people.
No, he doesn't. He's very closed off. Here's the thing. I was playing Shenmue again, and, he's such a dick to his family. He's so mean. Like, his grandma, God bless her, she does so much for him, and he rarely, he never says thank you. He never says thank you. She keeps the house clean, she gives him allowance, and he just, goes off, gotta go find my father's killer! And she, begged him. She begged him to stop. And, I was so upset with the way that Ryu treated his grandma. I spontaneously called my grandma and told her that I loved her.
Well, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Call your grandma, call your mom, call your dad, call your grandpa, because they love you. You're your family. They love you. But
keep friends, those you love.
No. But okay, so let's take a look at that now. All right, so Ryu shoves everyone away from him.
Yeah, he does not take his father's dying words to heart.
And that really frustrates me. Nozomi, I love Nozomi, and I was talking to Nozomi as much as I could throughout the game, and every single interaction was just frustrating because Ryu was just oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm doing fine, don't worry about me. And again, pushing people away from him.
I think he's just the very stereotypical stoic Japanese man.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is this is me looking at it from a Western perspective. Now, Western storytelling is very different from Japanese storytelling, because like I said, with Star Wars, things happen, things move along, and in Japanese storytelling, it's very slow, and then eventually, you get that payoff, or you get that really exciting thing, but it isn't until the very end, or close to it. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know, that's why I can never really get into that much anime, because it's so much of that. It's so much of that happening. Even with Gundam Wing, one of my favorite animes from my childhood, most of that was political intrigue. And me, being 12 or 13, I didn't understand a lick of it. I'm just get to the giant robots, please.
Yeah.
But when they came out, oh man, that was awesome.
Do you have any other questions?
Oh yeah. So I think it's fair to say that you probably wouldn't recommend Shenmue as a game to someone.
I would actually, because there are a lot of things to learn from it. Things to learn not to do, and things to learn to do. And part of what we were talking, we've been geeking out about how awesome the world of Shenmue is, because it does feel very realistic, and I like that feeling of it. It definitely has a great aesthetic. However, the story and characters are lacking, and the gameplay, it's also lacking in my opinion.
Yeah, it hasn't aged well.
It really hasn't. And even just walking around,
What, you don't like tank controls?
No, I don't. I want to run around in circles like an idiot, because games should allow you to do that if you have an analog stick. That's just my humble opinion.
Now, knowing someone that enjoys Shenmue, what game would you recommend to them today to kind of fill that void between now and whenever this actually comes to see the light of day?
Hang on, let me take a look at my shelf. I mean, like, there's so many games to play, but, like, if you want something Shenmue-esque, I would say something along the lines of Witcher 3. I love Witcher 3, and, like, when I'm looking back at Shenmue, you know, I think a lot of, like, the comparisons to The Witcher 3, and how, like, Geralt of Rivia was such a good detective, and, like, just the different options that are available to you. Geralt is such an amazing character, because, like, you know, he doesn't really express or emote much, but, like, he's a great character because of the things that he says and the actions that he takes. And, like, I love the openness of like, quests that you can complete. Like, most times, like, you'll be faced with, like, hunting a monster, because that's what you do. You're a witcher. That's what you do in that world. But instead of, like, just going someplace and killing a monster, you know, there will be places that are, like, haunted by ghouls, or, like, haunted by, you know, sirens, or, like, some kind of monster. And you can choose to just go there, straight up kill it, and, you know, say, the job's done. Or you can remove the curse. Because, like, there's more to it than simply just a monster that's been haunting them. And, like, they're like, the people that commission you to hunt these monsters are like, this is a terrible monster and we don't understand it. So you, being a witcher, you know, educated in the ways of, you know, mythical beasts and all that stuff, like, you can figure, like, oh, there's a different way to approach this than simply just cutting off its head. And I like that. And I also like the different stories, because, like, a lot of it is, like, investigation type things, like murder mysteries and, you know, whodunits. And I love that. And I love about that game, and there's so much to it. And I'm not really a fan of, like, high fantasy that much, even though, like, I've been way into Dungeons and Dragons lately. But that's if you guys want to talk about D&D, I got some stories for you.
I'm into D&D as well.
Oh, nice.
I'm not a nerd. No, just kidding.
He's basically the worst. Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. That was rude. That was very rude.
I may have missed it.
You actually froze up on our end.
Oh, good. Then don't keep that. Don't keep that. Don't make me repeat it. But
I don't think we got it at all. Whatever
good.
It was.
Good, because it was very rude. Sorry.
I assume you insulted Andrew for not liking D&D, and if you did, I approve. But this is a tangent, but all your Witcher 3 talk. Are you excited for Cyberpunk 2077?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's my most anticipated thing. Can't wait.
Most anticipated? Let's just back up about that.
More than Shenmue 3.
What?
I'll leave.
I mean, for me as well, but, you know, we've already established that I'm not a huge fan anymore. And yeah, so, like,
just
CD Projekt Red, they take their time and they make sure that they have a complete game, and they make sure that they have the game that they want.
Yeah,
and they want to be able to give those players, like, the experience that they want them to have, or the players that the experience that the players want to have.
Yeah,
there's so many different, like, options and paths and pathways for the players to, like, do things. It's incredible, and I love those games, and I love that studio.
Yeah, I just love cyberpunk settings. It's my favorite setting, but I'm kind of crazy in that I bought Witcher 3 and didn't play it. I never had any intention to play it. I only bought it to support the studio so that money could go to Cyberpunk.
That's insane.
I know.
Play Witcher 3. It's so good.
I played about an hour or two, and I was like, I'm gonna play Skyrim.
See about that.
I don't like being given a character for some reason, even though I love Shenmue. Like, I like to create my own character, but...
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I like being given a character.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I like having linear stories told to me. Like, I love the Naughty Dog studio because I love Last of Us and I love Uncharted, and I love how those things kind of put me into the role of those characters. I did theater back in my college and high school days, and I love taking on the role of things. That's why I really like D&D, is because I get to, like, sort of become the role. And I think, like, there's two different kinds of players. There's, like, the players that want to, like, screw around and mess with the physics and make their characters look like idiots, or there's the characters that, like, or there's the players that take on the role and try and, like, act as though the character would act, or, like, take it kind of seriously in a sort of in a sense, where, you know, because it is role playing to a certain extent. Not that you can really do much with Mario, but you can, like, you know, take on the role of Joel from The Last of Us, or, you know, Nathan Drake, or Geralt of Rivia, or Ryu, and You can do all these things.
Well, that's why I like to create my own character, because then I feel like I'm role playing. If somebody gives me a character, then I don't feel like I'm role playing. I feel like I'm controlling a character that already exists and has his own motivations and stuff.
Acting. That's fun to do. It's fun to take on a different character and like kind of like try and create. I don't know. Video games are awesome, though. Is what I'm trying to say.
There's all sorts of video games. There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
Video games are the best, guys.
We should get back to questions.
We should talk about Shenmue again.
Yeah.
To quote Brad Ellis there.
Yes.
Actually, during the video that you were in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all the questions I had kind of about Shenmue in general.
Well, you're going to ask about, like, the event itself?
So, being there, I'm so jealous. What was the vibe before it started?
Interesting. The vibe before the whole thing started was pretty professional, I'd say. Well, like professional, like in like suits were trying to be cool, like big wigs were trying to be cool. Because I remember like hanging outside in the parking lot where they like fenced off the whole area. There were journalists and celebrities kind of walking around, possibly Rupert Grint, I'm not sure, but like I got in there. They gave me a like ticket so that I could get a free food and drink, and that was good because like I was really hungry. And
after having thrown out all your shit.
Well, like I threw out all my stuff, kind of, and then like I had been walking all day because I didn't have any cash for the bus. So like I just walked like miles from like was it EA? Yeah, it was EA to the Sony conference.
All right.
And I walked all the way there, and so I'm just hungry. I want to sit down. I want to eat food, and so like they had this DJ there who was like trying to get people like hyped for video games. And she was doing her best, but like people were just like meeting each other because they haven't seen them since last E3. Like there were professional relationships there among journalists, and they were just like hanging out and saying, "Hey, what are you excited for? What do you think about this?" Or just talking about like whatever, and that was cool. But like it was just kind of embarrassing to see this poor little DJ girl just like spinning these tracks, like, "You guys excited for Sony?" I'm like, "Yeah, kinda." But like once I got in, like people just started filling in immediately. Like once they like open up the doors, people just like the floodgates had opened, and like we all just kind of like massed towards the entrance. And I went as fast as I possibly could because like I want to get a good seat. I don't want to be like up there in the nosebleeds. I got to be up front. And so I found like the seat where I was like on ground level, and I just took it because like there was no reserved for such and such. It was just like me down there, and I'm like, yes, awesome. So I got a great seat. I was like 7 rows from the front, and it was like, this is gonna be amazing, and it was, because that stage was so cool. They have like the big huge screen, and like they have all the other screens. It was just so cool. Like I was close enough that I could see the people up on stage presenting. I could see their faces, I could see their emotions, and it was fantastic. And like I love E3 because like it was such a hype train experience, and it was just good to feel excited about stuff. And again, like E3 2015 was like a great year for E3. There was so many cool stuff announced, and Shenmue 3 was like so exciting.
So when it happened, what was?
Yeah. Hold on. I want to do these in order.
Oh, you gotta.
So, how did the vibe change after The Last Guardian was announced?
Well, it's weird because like you go to a theater to watch commercials for video games. That's what that is. And so like when Last Guardian was announced, yeah, people were hyped. People got to see some more gameplay of it. It was very exciting, and it was like we had a date, but then that was pushed back. But like we had a date at that time, and we were very excited. But yeah, and so like the next presenter came out, and it was just like, okay, we'll wait patiently. It's like going to a show, and like when the band's playing their music, you stay quiet and you listen to the music and you appreciate it, and then you applaud or scream or hoot and holler when they're done with their song, and then they play their next song. Yeah, it's just like watching a movie or watching a band. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
And then after the Final Fantasy VII remake, did you notice a change then?
Oh, definitely. People were so excited about that. I yelled at the guy. I was like, it was about time! It's like, damn, those Final Fantasy VII fans, they are vicious. They are so vicious, but, yeah, like, definitely, like, the tone had changed, and I'm pretty sure that tears were shed.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause that was exciting to see that.
And then finally with the Shenmue 3 announcement.
It was just me.
Just you.
It's funny that you have your hands on your head right now in the video that we're seeing.
Yeah, I'm doing video call, so. But yeah, it was just me. I was the only person in the place that seemed to know what Shenmue was.
Are you serious right now?
It seemed to be, because I was the only person standing.
Wow.
And, like, people just weren't that excited about it. And I think that's pretty indicative of the public's general reaction to Shenmue. Now,
That's crazy, because when they announced it, I kept listening for, like, cheers of the audience, and I couldn't really hear much.
Exactly. So, like, that's why I was on camera, because I was the only person standing.
Huh.
And, like, me and that guy from Game Trailers, who freaking fell out of his chair.
Yeah.
He was so excited. Wow, that guy, that's professionalism right there.
I love it. He's full of hype.
Yeah, I know, that's great. I mean, again, like E3, it's the hype train station. You get on the hype train, and you just don't get off until it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, Shenmue, that was great. When Yu Suzuki came out, like, as soon as I heard the music, as soon as I saw, like, the text on screen, I immediately, like, jumped out of my seat. I was like, yes! Yes! And then Yu Suzuki came out, and he was like, well, that's Countdown, and I was with him. I was so with him. I was like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, yeah! Oh my god! Shenmue! Yes! Yes, I was kind of, like, looking around, like, I was counting down, like, come on, guys, come on, Shenmue, come on. And, like, people were just like, okay, alright. The weebs will like this one.
Oh, that's sad.
It is sad, because, like, again, Shenmue has such a legacy to it. It's like the greatest game that no one played. Because I feel like a lot of games take after Shenmue unintentionally. Because, like, Shenmue does so many things that are, like, groundbreaking, and so many things that, like, set the bar, but I feel like no one really references it or talks about it in any sort of way. Yeah. And the only way that they do, like, the general public has a knowledge of Shenmue, but it's just that game with sailors.
Yeah.
That forklift racing game, it's...
Okay, forklifts and sailors. That's Shenmue.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And that's the thing, like, so on a larger scale, video games are just sort of like internet memes, They're not quotable. They're not, like, in the general public, and if they are, they're frowned upon, and it is that sort of culture, because, like, we kind of do it to ourselves as gamers. I mean, like, YouTube comments, for example, like, terrible things, and if you go online, you get really salty because these people are just so mean, and, like, the gaming public, like, it's bad, and, like, the games that are written are bad, and there are some games that are written really well, but, like, you can't really, like, quote them in like, public. It's not as publicly known as, like, use the Force, Luke. It's like games need to be quotable. Games need to be, like, cool. I mean, the games are cool. Games are great, and I love them, and I want to be able to, like, bring them to, like, a public eye, to, like, where they're on par with movies or television or books, and, like, we can look at them and like, yeah, that was an awesome game. That was a piece of history. That was, like, a benchmark, a milestone. But instead, video games, when they're quoted, they're just kind of like memes. Like, all your base are belong to us. Or, like, a line from Duke was like, I'm gonna rip off your head and shit down your neck. Or with Shenmue, it's like, do you know any sailors? And this is sort of variation on that. Like,
there's no sincere quotes.
No, not really. I mean, like, unless you play, like, Uncharted 2, which has some great lines.
Yeah.
That game's amazing.
Yeah, the public consciousness around video games is not positive.
No, it's not.
I remember watching Amazing Race last year, and they do activities all the time about, like, go up against this guy who plays sports for a living, and like, but they did this one where they had to go up against people who were playing Street Fighter. and they're having a really hard time beating these people at Street Fighter. And then the Street Fighter players got blindfolded, they got one arm tied behind their back and stuff, and they were still kicking these people's asses. And these people got so mad, and they started flinging like personal insults at these Street Fighter players, saying that they're just losers who live in their basements and stuff like that, and like just no respect for the skill they've acquired to get that far.
Not at all. And like, like that's the problem with like video game culture, is that like the general public still has the idea that people who really obsessively and emphatically play video games is that they're just basement-dwelling troglodytes. Yeah. But I have a job, I pay rent, I have responsibilities, you know, I listen to classical music, I listen to jazz, you know, I read the news, I you know, take in culture. But the thing is that people still think that gamers only play games and nothing else, that they're shut-ins, that they don't do anything.
Yeah, but if you know sports stuff, if you know a player's stats for every year that he's ever played, you're not a loser.
No, not at all. You're cool.
Yeah.
And part of that's Western culture. That's American culture, because we put so much value on sports.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the problem, because like that's something else entirely. But it's because I was going to get into like how athletes get away with so much.
They do.
They really do. It's disgusting.
Idols.
It is, and like, you know, gamers, we like in our gaming culture is so closed off. It's as though someone put a gate there, a gamer gate, as it were. Oh, let's get topical.
I got it.
Topical. We're talking about athletes getting away with stuff.
Yeah.
So we're recording this on what day?
You didn't expect this for your Shenmue podcast.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever mention on this podcast that O.J. Simpson's not in jail anymore.
I know. How terrible is this? What a world that we live in.
He stole some sports memorabilia, and then he also got away with murdering 2 people.
Yeah.
But at least he didn't play video games.
No, he did. That guy's
He's
not
a
loser.
monster.
He's not a loser.
He had a great season when he played.
All right, what's our next question?
Yeah. Let's try and get off this subject. But like, gamers have to change the conversation about video games. We can't just be throwing insults and curse words.
Yeah.
We also have to look outside of video games. We have to take in culture. We have to take in, you know, other things, because like, video games are so like exclusive to video games. Like, I can't have a conversation with my grandma about video games in a way that she'll understand, because it's not a universal language. We can't really like talk about that. I could talk with my grandma about movies, the movies that she likes. But I can't really like talk to her about games, because like, again, there's that wall of like technology and the interaction of them. Because like, I gave my grandma Super Mario Brothers for her DS, and she couldn't understand it because, quote, there were too many buttons to use. Yep, that's my
6.
grandma. Yeah, well, 2 when it comes to Mario. But
yeah, that's true.
she loves her DS though, because she plays Brain Age and Big Brain Academy and like those touchscreen games, because she understands that.
Yeah.
Gamers have a wall that, you know, other media doesn't, because other media is passive. You watch movies, you watch television, you listen to music, you read books, and you are a bystander. The unique and awesome thing about video games is that you are player one. You are the central point of the story. You make things happen, and it is sort of that power fantasy. And one of my favorite quotes by Adam Sessler is that he likes first-person shooters not because he gets to shoot people, but because he's important enough to be shot at. And I think like that's cool though, because like it is. Again, like it comes back to the power fantasy of like being someone important, being someone who matters. Because I feel as though I'm a nobody. I work at a factory. I don't really do anything special, but I got friends and I got, you know, family, and they love me. But I'm not gonna like change the world by working at a factory.
You got family, you got friends, but none of them would ever shoot at you, and that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want. I want some excitement.
You need to start hanging with O.J. Simpson. One thing, kind of talking about the gaming community, I almost fret to mention this, because I know someone out there listening is gonna do it just to do it.
What's that?
We are on iTunes, we are on YouTube, and we had a SoundCloud page. Mm-hmm. We are approaching 6,000 views, downloads, whatever you want to call it.
Awesome.
Whatever you want to call it.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. But We have not had a single negative comment. We have not had.
That's gonna change. That's gonna change.
That's changing with this episode for sure.
Yeah.
We have not had one single thumbs down on YouTube.
Wow. Oh, nice.
Not a single one. We have not had any negative feedback in any way, shape, or form.
Shenmue fans are the best fans, I guess.
God. I mean, yeah, you guys stick together. You guys really stick together, and you love Shenmue. It seems like that's the only game that you ever play.
So
no, that's not true, but like you guys really love Shenmue. And I got really
like the community around what we do has been, compared to like most other stuff out there, is like, it surprised me that when I looked at the stats, there was not a single thumbs down.
That's really impressive.
When you go, and I don't want to spoil an episode that I have plans for that Matt doesn't know about, but I intentionally went out and looked across the internet to find negative stuff about Shenmue, and it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, most message boards were, 80-20, 80 positive, but there was still a lot of negative stuff there. And that's it it's like that for a lot of stuff. And I don't think that ratio, I think that ratio is closer to 50-50. It's just like, I don't like this, F you.
Yeah.
And I really hate that happens. But I think there is a bit of a movement as video games are slowly becoming more mainstream.
Yeah.
That there's a little bit of culture. And so you mentioned there Michael Huber, the guy falling out of his chair. Their new project that they do, or workplace, Easy Allies, they promote this thing called Love and Respect. And if you submit...
What a strange concept.
If you submit a question to them, you submit it, and you have your signature at the end, Love and Respect whoever.
Yeah.
And like, I really appreciate that they're doing that, because it is slowly creeping towards this more positive community.
Yeah.
But the problem is kids get into video games at such a young age, and kids are on the internet at such a young age now, that there's no filter there between. They can just be a keyboard tough guy.
Yeah.
And that's contributing to the negativeness associated with video gaming. Is you go read the comments, you go online and just listen to someone, just say terrible things about people, racist things, homophobic things.
It's awful.
Like, it's unbelievable that that exists in 2017.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, and B, that it happens to begin with.
Yeah.
And it is really around video games. You don't.
Yeah.
You go look at message boards for movies. You don't see that a whole lot.
Oh,
you don't see that on a bit more with music compared to movies, but it's. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is.
Gaming
other
culture,
than being player one.
Is, I mean, like, it is sort of like being player one. It is that sort of thing, because like online gaming is so caustic. It's so filled with hate and venom, and it's terrible. It really is. And like, because part of that concept, as I was saying earlier, is that like games are a power fantasy, that we are player one, that we are number one, we are the central part of the story. And when we get online, that power is taken away from us because someone else is better than we are. We thought we were the best in single player mode. Heck, we beat the story mode. We beat the final boss. We got the secret end credits. We mattered. We were important. And online gaming kind of takes that away from us. Gamers are very passionate because, like, even playing Overwatch, which is somewhat a lighthearted game, I get really salty. Holy crap. But, like, it is frustrating to me, and that we can't look at these things calmly, that we can't step back, and that we can't, take a deep breath and show something as simple as love and respect. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, we need that. We really need that. And on the other hand, here we are, the three of us, gamers, talking in a civil manner. And I think that it's like the vocal minority. Cause, like,
absolutely.
Yeah, because, like, in the age of the internet, we can like just spout out so much and just generate so much more content than we ever could before. And it can be seen by everyone in the world. If it's on the internet, it can be seen by anybody. And so, and then another part of that is that we have usernames. We have aliases. It's like the old saying, if you give a man a mask, he will show you his true self. And so we hide behind these masks of anonymity, and we can say whatever we want, but it'll come back to us. It'll always come back to us. We can't, and we can't let these things go. We really can't let these things go. We should fight it, but not in a way that you're thinking. We need to go onto online games and be calm. We need to go to message boards and be calm. We need to show love and respect online, because it's missing. There's such a void there of like nice, kind, respectful people in the gaming community, and we need to be vocal about that. We need to counter this hate with love. It's very simple, but we just need to be more active about it, because like I watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos and like a whole bunch of stuff, like, but I don't leave comments, I don't leave likes, I don't do anything like that, because it's just like I enjoyed that. On to the next or whatever. Because like I feel like I don't need to say anything. I don't need to criticize. Like everyone's a critic. Everyone loves to say that was wrong. Here's what I think you did wrong. Stuff like that. We love that. We get off on it, and it's terrible that we do. It's human nature, but like it's terrible. But again, like it's just don't be a dick, guys.
People think it's consequence free.
Yeah.
That they can do whatever they want. Like compare, say we're playing an online game and we're on a team, and I'm spouting off whatever I want at the enemy.
Yeah.
The other team. I could be racist. I could be whatever I want. I can say whatever I want, and at the end of the day, I'm one guy sitting in a room behind my controller.
And you'll never see those people again.
I'll never see those people again. Now, take that same scenario. We're a hockey team.
Yeah.
And I'm out there, we're lining up for the face-off, and I'm spouting whatever I want.
I do want to say,
that guy on the other team can take my head off.
Yeah, totally.
And there's consequences. And you know what? If he decides to take my head off, I'm probably not going to do it again.
Yeah.
And I would learn something. Not that I would do that to begin with, but I would learn something. And these people aren't learning anything because there's no consequence.
There's no consequence.
It's just frustrating.
And like we can flag these players, we can report them, but it's going to get lost among the millions of other people who like just fake report or like don't do a proper job of reporting people. But I also want to say, like, that was the most Canadian analogy that you could have given. But you're absolutely right though. Like there is no consequence, and so like we think we can get away from that like scot free.
For your next analogy, please use poutine.
I was literally going to tell you a story about poutine. So we live in New Brunswick, and I had a cousin come up from Boston today, him and one of his friends, and he was talking about Kraft macaroni and cheese. And my wife brought them out a box of Kraft dinner.
Yeah, Kraft dinner.
And I was like, he's like, oh, the noodles are different shaped. I'm like, yeah, the cheese is a little different. And then I went and got him a thing of St. Hubert's poutine sauce, and I was just like, take this home. And I'm like, I gave this guy Kraft dinner and poutine. And we made them donaires for lunch. So it was quite possibly the most Canadian thing that happened.
Your colors proud, you Canadian.
So I think that's going to be it for this episode.
Yeah, we kind of went all over the place, but I think that we had a good conversation. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem. I really want to thank you for joining. This was a different episode. We haven't done anything like this before.
Yeah.
I think a lot of podcasts similar to ours haven't done anything like this before.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want to plug, Scott, for yourself, social media-wise?
Catch me on Twitch. I do live streams pretty regularly from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm just kind of making my way through my backlog of video games because I have amounted quite a lot.
And be nice, people. Don't send.
Yeah, be kind. Be kind. I know that I don't like Shenmue. That's on me. Don't send it these guys' ways. Don't send it to them. Don't give them their first ever thumbs down. Don't do that.
We'll just hand it off to you if we get one.
Yeah. Somehow find a way to send me all these thumbs down, and I'm expecting that. I'm expecting like Facebook personal messages saying you suck.
I would hope not.
I sure hope
better
not.
than that, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I wrote a post on a large Shenmue Facebook page, and wow, people really like QTEs. Wow, people really like QTEs. We never got into that. Oh man, have me back on for that conversation. I want to be there.
We definitely love to have you back on as a guest. This is
that's
I think
awesome.
one of our better episodes.
Oh really? That's flattering. Thank you.
You can find us at Shenmue AM2 Podcast on Facebook, Shenmue AM2 Pod, on Twitter, Shenmue AM2 Podcast at gmail.com. We're youtube.com/Shenmue AM2 Podcast. We're on iTunes. Please thumbs up, like, subscribe, give us ratings on iTunes, all that good stuff. We'd also like to thank our sponsor this week, Sumitomo Bank, where you get more interest on your account than you would in Fukusan's piggy bank. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.